Welcome to the Perfect Your Purpose podcast, where my goal is to connect with inspiring individuals across the country and allow them to share their journeys that have brought them to where they are today and how they're living and discovering their unique purpose day in and day out. I'm your host, Danica Tramburg, and joining me today is travel nurse Jenny White. I think she has many titles, but thank you so much for being on today. I'm so excited to hear more about your journey in travel nursing, just growth and finding your purpose.
Awesome. I'm excited. This is really exciting.
So where are you right now?
So I'm in Seattle, Washington right now. And I ended up here because I started travel nursing, but I actually took a permanent position in September. So I'm not currently travel nursing right at the moment.
Exciting.
But that's how I ended up here. And I really like it here in Seattle. I mean, the weather is phenomenal. And winter here, people are like, oh, it's so cold here. And I'm like, it's like 46 and raining. Like, this is amazing. I can run 6 miles outside in February. Like, this is great. Yeah. So, I mean, I could definitely stay here, but I also always have an itch to be traveling and like going to new places, meeting new people, learning new things. So, I could always pick up traveling again in the future. But for now, there's a lot of stuff I want to do here in the Pacific Northwest. So
where else did travel nursing take you? Because I know you were a few different areas.
Yeah, so I traveled for like barely a year. So the first place brought us, my roommate and I traveled together. So it brought us to Seattle first, and we did a 3-month contract here, which is usually the shortest amount of time for a travel nurse contract is about 3 months. And then we took a position. We loved Seattle and we thought, oh, we could definitely stay here. And everyone at the hospital was like, you guys are awesome. You should stay. And we're like, well, this is our first travel job. Like, we don't want to just stop right now. We just started. And so then we went down to San Diego, which was great. Like, we love the sunshine and everything, but I didn't really feel like I could see myself staying there. Like, I like the constant sun, but I'm from the Midwest, so I really like seasons. I liked fall, spring, and like up here you have all the evergreen trees and the fall colors, and like down there you just have like, it's very brown compared to up here. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like the weather was, but I didn't really care for the hospital there either. And so we were already itching to like figure out where we were going to go next, because it was going to be midwinter then. And we were thinking maybe we'd go to Arizona or somewhere else warm. And then COVID came and shut down San Diego. Like it just, it kind of put a wrench in everyone's plans. So then we ended up being offered a crisis contract to come back to Seattle Children's from our recruiter. And we were like, well, we always knew we wanted to spend a summer in Seattle because we heard it's literally perfection. Like, summer here is gorgeous. And so we were like, well, I guess, we didn't plan on coming back right away, but a crisis contract, can't really pass that up. And we've already been there. We have friends there. So we're like, sure, we'll come back. And then we took a permanent position after that contract because we weren't sure, with COVID affecting so many travel nurse contracts and shutting down hospital surgeries and stuff to preserve PPE and all that stuff, there weren't really a lot of opportunities for pediatric surgical contracts. And so we were like, well, we should just kind of set up shop here for a little while and, see where that takes us and ride COVID out. And so we're still here and we're still having fun. So
Washington was one of the areas when COVID started that it had the huge outbreak. Were you anywhere near that area, or like, did you have to deal with any of those things?
So when we left Seattle, it was like January 20th of 2020. So it hadn't really fully exploded until later. So we weren't here when all of that first took place. But when we came back, it definitely affected how many surgeries we were doing and all that stuff. So,
well, thankfully you didn't have to be there during that then.
I know. We were actually canceled 2 weeks early at our San Diego contract too, because of the COVID and shutting down surgical operations and things. And it costs a hospital double to pay a travel nurse. And so they were letting a lot of travelers go. And at that point we were just like, we need to like take a permanent position somewhere that we know we're happy, because we need health insurance if we catch this, or, you have jobs throughout this time. So I think it was a really good decision that we decided to take a staff position where we are now.
So not only I feel like you travel for obviously your job, not as much anymore, but you've done a ton of international travel. Give me like your top 1 to 2, 3 places that you've been.
so hard to like pick your favorite when people ask, because every place is unique because it's that place, but I really liked my trip to Israel because I did the Holy Land tour, and that was a very spiritual trip and very meaningful to me. I did a lot of research, a lot of looking up Bible verses and things for all the places that I went. So that was a really fun trip to go to, just because it was very special to me because of my faith and because I put a lot of time into preparing for that trip, and it just meant so much. Like, that was probably one of my ultimate dream trips that I honestly never thought I'd be brave enough to go to the Middle East by myself. I flew there by myself and was like, I'm not going to wait for friends to want to go there, because like nobody really wants to be like, oh, I really want to go to Israel tomorrow. Not everybody's number one trip, but I always wanted to go there, and I'm so glad that I did that. And then my second favorite trip was probably going to the Maldives, because that's literally heaven on earth. If there is a place on earth that is heaven on earth, it's got to be the Maldives. Like, every day I was thanking God for my eyesight, because some people never see water so clear and blue. Like, it's unreal down there.
That's amazing. What was the travel experience like, just being alone going to Israel? I'd imagine there's got to be some level of like a little bit of scaredness. I mean, although you were brave enough to go there.
It didn't really hit me until the plane was landing in Tel Aviv, because the airport isn't anywhere near the city. And so when we were landing, it was just very like desert-like, and there weren't like any trees, and it kind of looks like how the police would look on the news, And so I was like, holy shnikes. I was like, I'm here by myself. And I was like, what have I gotten myself into? And I was like, okay, just go with the plan. Like, you're meeting a group tour. So like, everything's going to be fine. Like, everything, and Israel is it's a very, like, culturally accepting area, I would say. It's very interesting feeling to be there, because you have like the three major world religions reside there, and everything is in English, Hebrew, and Arabic. So all the signs are in all the languages. It was just so cool to be there. Like, I just can't even describe it in words. Like, but I was definitely scared when the plane landed, because I was like, okay, I'm all by myself. Everything's going to be fine. But, it's very intimidating, because over there, a lot of like people are dressed like a certain way. So it's very clear who is like Jewish and who's coming from America and who's Muslim. And so it was very intimidating, but, I really do believe in like being fearless, and like God puts you where you're supposed to be. And like, I was like, there's a reason I wanted to go on this trip. And like, I'm really like excited and open to learning all the new things and just being a part of the whole experience.
Yeah, completely. That's amazing. I'm just curious what some of like the holy places were that you visited.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, so after the first night in Tel Aviv, where we met the group tour, I went all around the country of Israel. So we started by going like north. We went through Nazareth, which is where the city where Jesus grew up. And we spent a night in Tiberias, where my hotel balcony window overlooked the Sea of Galilee. And when I opened the curtain that night, I was like all by myself, because I had my own group, booked the trip by myself. And like, I literally just like bawled my eyes out. I'm like, literally, Jesus walked on water right there. Sea of Galilee in front of me right here. Like, this is insane.
Goodness.
And it would have been cool to have someone to like share that moment with, like I wish I could have had somebody who appreciated all the places that we went with the same intensity as me, but like being there by myself was also really special too. I really liked Bethlehem, because honestly, like, I went there in May, and it truly is Christmas year round there. Which, another thing I also thought was interesting, like, the city's completely decorated in Christmas trees and nativity scenes, like in mosaics on the walls downtown and everything. And another thing I thought was interesting is that Bethlehem's actually in Palestine now. So we had to cross the border from Israel to Palestine, which was also kind of intimidating. It's the border crossings down there, there's people with guns like standing there. And there's also signs that say like our tour guide also pointed this stuff out, because she can read all the Arabic signs and stuff. But she's like that road over there, she showed us a sign that says like, your life is in danger if you go down this road. Like you could literally be killed, like if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that was also a little scary, but I wasn't really that worried the whole time I was there. I felt really safe with the group tour that I went with. But yeah, Bethlehem I thought was interesting, because it's now in Palestine, and it's actually a Muslim city, yet all the Christianity remains around it, because it's like Jesus' birth. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. and Jerusalem, like all-time favorite. Like Jerusalem is like so amazing. Like the stone structures and like the way it's just like the old ancient city. It's just walking the streets with like all the different people from all these different world religions, and like the food there, oh my gosh, amazing. It just smells like hummus and like it's amazing. Another thing I really like, you really good, honestly. Like I would promote anyone. I would go back just to eat the food there. I mean, I've never had hummus anywhere near as delicious as I can't even eat it here because it's like not the same. But then also, I thought it was really cool how, like in Jerusalem and like walking through like the Garden of Gethsemane, you know, where Jesus prayed before his arrest, and like all this stuff actually happened, and all of the maps that are in your Bible, like walking it, like it's all pretty much the same. And so it was just really like gratifying, I guess. Like you always like believe that it's like that, and like, but you go over there and like you feel it too, you know, you can see it, and it's like really cool.
I definitely, I have to go, and all of the biblical map studying I did in high school and college will finally pay off. But
yeah,
that sounds brilliant.
Yes, you definitely should. And I can tell you all my notes I took on the trip if you ever go.
Perfect. So. I think too, like just what you're talking about, you know, traveling alone, just takes so much courage and confidence, and a sense of, you know, not being afraid, or at least trusting the journey and process. And I think that not only relates to your travel nursing, your for fun travels, but in life in general. Having confidence to just keep going and following kind of the path that God has put out there for you. Do you feel that there has been, you know, certain times in your life that you look back or reflect on and you're like, you know, maybe you were fearful and you didn't take a chance, or you did take a chance and it turned out for the better?
I don't feel like there was ever a time that I like didn't take the chance. Sometimes it took me longer to make the decision to like take the leap to do something. But like I always like refer back to this thought in my mind that like even when I don't know what I need, like God provides what I need. You know what I mean? Even if it's like experiences, if it's doing something that, you know, resulted in a lot of friendships that I still had years down the road. Even if I'm nervous to do something and it ended up happening eventually, I feel like it was meant to be, to provide something that I needed that I didn't even know that I needed to like pray for at the time or whatever. Like for pageants, for example, like everyone's always like, oh, did you like do that growing up? Like, was that like something you always did? And I was like, no, like it was literally just a bucket list thing that I just winged it one year and made the top 15. And I'm sure I'm embarrassed myself. I had no idea what I was doing. And then made 15, made a ton of friends the first time I did it. And I was like, you know, I really wonder what could happen if I tried to learn how to do well in this. And, you know, it was fun and glamorous and, you know, very not like my normal day-to-day operating room, wear the same outfit every day life, you know? So I was like, this is fun. Like I should do it again. And so then, you know, I got better and I learned more skills and got more confident with speaking in front of people and made a ton of friends every year that I did it. And then I age out and I'm still doing it every year just by being there to be involved backstage, to like hang out with everyone. And it's just been like a really great experience. And, you know, I aged out like 6 years ago and I've been volunteering with it ever since then. And then I moved out to Seattle and now I'm volunteering with it out here. And it's just been amazing, all the connections I've made. And it's just been like, it just boggles my mind how things work out the way they're supposed to.
That's so true. Things truly, I do believe, work out the way they're meant to. And it's amazing that you can make connections across the country. Like this world seems so big at some moments, and then, you know, so small at other moments. It just blows my mind continuously. I think too, in pageants, and you had several experiences with this, but kind of that journey toward self-confidence and self-love and learning who you are, and the process is so important. Can you explain a little bit of that process and how it was like for you?
I think one of the major aspects of doing pageants that actually helped me grow the most as a person was practicing for interview. I think that because you have to figure out like where your opinions lie, like what your beliefs are. In order to answer anything confidently about yourself, you have to learn about yourself. And I think that being pushed to do that through mock interviews and things really helped me to learn who I am, where I stand. on like political issues and things that like, if I never would have done pageants, like maybe I never would have fully thought about how I really feel about certain things. And so I learned a lot about myself in that way. And I think it just carries over into everyday life and how confident you are because you do know yourself. And then you really start to care less about what other people think when you feel good about who you are on the inside. So
I couldn't have said it better myself. I love that. It's really true. And really the only opinions that I think matter are the ones from the people around you that are closest to you, that know who you are on the inside. And that's really what counts. When you were competing, was there anything that was super challenging to you? I know there's a lot of stereotypes around pageants and mean girls and cliques and all that stuff. Did you have any of those things happen to you, or were you surprised that it didn't, or what are your feelings on that?
I feel like maybe it's because like we competed in Wisconsin and we're around Midwest nice girls all the time, but like I never felt that anyone was really mean, which honestly I was surprised a little bit because I mean those are stereotypes that are out there, but when I did my first one, I was surprised that like everyone was so nice and like welcoming and accepting and really encouraging of each other. Like that really surprised me that, you know, like girls are competing against each other for this amazing title, but yet backstage they're still helping each other zip their gowns and like fix their earrings and like really just like everyone really wanted to see everyone else do well. And I really like that. And it did surprise me because I was expecting it to be very different. Of course, I've never competed in any other state, so I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but even volunteering at the pageant out here in Washington and Oregon, it was the same. Like everyone was very nice, very accepting, welcoming, helpful. And so it just makes me feel really good to be a part of like a pageant family, even though I never won, you know?
And you still get to be around that and impact those young girls too that are competing now. And I think that's one of the best things that I learned from pageants is that there's seriously room for every single person to succeed in life. Everyone has unique talents and gifts, and there's just, you know, there's only room for encouragement for people. Cheer on that person next to you because they're going to cheer you on back. And that's what life's all about, is relationships and building that. And it's so important. And it's so wonderful to hear that you had that experience and are still having that experience out in Washington. When you, say a girl came up to you and she was like, I'm thinking about competing, or I'm thinking about doing this, but I have self-doubt and I don't know what I want to do. And, you know, she doesn't have that faith in herself to take that next step. What kind of advice would you give her?
I would probably ask her why she wanted to compete in the first place, and then ask her like what's really holding her back. Because if it's something that is just fear of the unknown, you know, then I would say you just need to go for it, because like sometimes putting yourself outside your comfort zone, like the best things can happen from that. And even though it's scary, you just never know what kind of connections you could make. And I don't know, I've always left pageants, even though I never won, I always felt better about myself I did before I started preparing for that year. And so I think that just a lot of really good things can happen internally, and you just make so many good friends. And it also depends on how you look at it, because I think, you know, obviously only one girl's going to win, you know, but you don't need to win to like reap the benefits that come from participating too. So
True.
That's what I'll be like, go for it.
What's one of your biggest fears?
Oh goodness. One of my biggest fears is probably like not having enough time to experience everything I want to experience. Like I want to travel to so many places, and I'm like, I'm not going to live long enough to go to every single place. So now I got to narrow it down. And I also like being a nurse, I see can happen like with your health. And like, I'm really grateful that I've been healthy so far in my life, but I also fear that like something could happen that would prevent me from being able to travel the world, or, you know, it's not guaranteed that you're always going to be healthy. And so I don't want to wait and put off trips that could be like dream trips. You know, like I'm glad I went to Israel when I did, because now with COVID, like that could have been 3 years from now. And then what if something happened to me before, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's important to like not wait just because you're worried or fearful of the unknown. I think that you should just take the plunge, because you aren't guaranteed the next week or tomorrow. And so I just think it's important not to, I guess, wait around to make big decisions. Like just go for it.
That's true. I think living in the moment is important. And I don't think we get to do it enough. And I think you could probably attest to this, that sometimes the American way of living doesn't necessarily allow you to do that.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, and hopefully becomes a little bit more normal for, people to take those trips that they've always dreamed of and just kind of live in the now and not worry about, not worry about the future. Like, I think God always has a plan for you, and he's in control of the future, and live for the now, because you're not promised tomorrow.
Right. And even not just like thinking just far into the future, but like work can be work, and it can be, your career can be something that's meaningful to you and something that you pour your time into, and it should be something that you love. But I'm also not the person who wants to like pick up call every weekend and like always be working, because I think like living your life and like doing things that make you happy outside of work, like you have to have time to do those things, because if you don't, you're just going to get burned out, and you don't want to get to the end of your life and be like, I wish I would have, taken a cake decorating class or something, but I was always working there. You don't want to, like, people at the end of their life aren't thinking about all the hours they were at their job, like it's important to take that time to enjoy things, like your hobbies and things you want to do outside of work, instead of just thinking about making all the money all the time. I mean, you need money to travel. So like,
yeah, right.
I'll pick up shit. Right? Like, I want to buy a new car. So like work hard, play hard mentality, I guess.
Definitely.
But I think balance is really important. And I don't necessarily think that the American way like encourages people to have balance. Like, I feel like, especially traveling internationally and compare culture to other cultures, I think Americans run on a lot of stress, and we're always by the clock, and like we never feel good enough, because the expectation to like do all the things all the time, get all the workouts in, like make all the money, like it's not the best way. And you go to other countries and like people are so much more relaxed. Like, it's like there's not so much, I guess, emphasis on doing so much all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day doesn't have to be a checklist. It can just happen.
Like if you want to go read for 2 hours, go read a book for 2 hours,
Exactly.
But I used to feel like, especially when I was like prepping for pageants, I always felt like any downtime should have been used to be preparing. And I think that I would sometimes get burned out and exhausted because it never felt like it was enough, and I don't know. I think balance is really important when it comes to that stuff.
It is so important. That's something I think I still struggle with, is that if I'm not accomplishing something in the moment, I feel like I'm wasting time. And that's something I've had to, over the years, continue to learn, that that's okay. We all need rest. We need to recharge. We need to take time to just sit, reflect. And if that's just sitting there, if that's watching a show for 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, I don't care. Sometimes you just need that, because you can't be highly functioning 100% of the time.
And I think when I was younger too, I struggled a lot with like saying no to people. Like, people would invite you to things, and then you have FOMO because you're like, I don't want to miss out. But like, if you really want, as I get older, like I'm turning 33 in June, which is crazy because it sounds way older than 32, like 33, what? But I just find it easier now to like say no to people, just simply because I'm like, I need an alone day. Like, I need to do laundry, and I want to sit in my pajamas all day, and I'm going to read a book, and I'm going to like bake, or I'm going to do whatever I want by myself all day. I don't want to talk to anyone, like, it's just like, I'm in the hospital every single day, so you're around so many people. And I don't know, I guess if I could give advice to my younger self, I would probably have told myself that, it's okay to say no and to like not do things all the time.
It's so true. And I think too, like that and like deadlines in life go hand in hand. I think so often we are, I need to have this career by the time I'm 25, and I need to find this person by the time I'm 28, and be married and have children. And I think all of those things in the American society are just kind of daunting.
They're really pressed on people. And like, I'm turning 33 in like 2 months, and I don't really feel pressure to like, you feel the pressure a little bit, but it's not like on the inside, I don't feel this insane pressure to be married already, or, I'm not like dead set on having kids. And so I'm not like rushing into this marriage relationship and feeling like I need to buy a house and like be settled down. I mean, my bucket list is full of like trips I want to take. So like if I could find somebody that wants to take all those trips with me, that'd be great. But like I do think that life has a certain timeline that people feel a lot of pressure to like meet this deadline. Yeah, deadlines, like you said, like, oh, you should have kids by this age. And it's just really important to remember that everyone's on their own journey, and maybe you're not meant to meet the person that you're going to fall in love with until you're 36, or like, and that's totally fine, because I personally, I don't feel like I'm going to have any regrets in my life, because even looking back at my life, I wouldn't have changed anything that I did. I went on awesome trips instead of having kids in my 20s, and I did passion for a while, and all those things, benefited my life in different ways. And I wouldn't be I wouldn't be living in Seattle, Washington right now if I hadn't, started traveling and then travel nursing. And so, yeah, like we said before, like you always end up where you're supposed to be. So there's really no room for regrets.
Yeah. And I think it's so true too, when you're living in the moment and you're reflecting on your decisions and, doing what you want to be doing at that time, that you can't regret it, because at a moment in time, that's where you want it to be.
Yeah, that's what made you happy. Even if you're thinking that you made a big life mistake, or you dated someone and maybe you're like, man, I wish I didn't end up with them. I wish I wouldn't have dated them, or like whatever. But at that moment in time, you still wouldn't regret it, because at that moment in time, that made you happy and that's what you wanted to be doing. So you really can't worry about all those small things.
So true. Jenny, when you hear the word purpose in life, what kind of comes to your mind?
Gosh, I still feel like I'm figuring out my purpose. Sometimes I'm like, how did I end up here? What am I doing every day? But I think that your purpose lies in kind of your value and like how you see yourself, and knowing that, you're made in God's image, and he made you to be who you are and put you on this earth, wherever you are on the planet, for a reason. And so I think that brings me a lot of peace when I start worrying about what my purpose in life is. I mean, obviously I'm a nurse, and so that's a very meaningful job. And I know that like part of my purpose is to help people and be a light in their life during dark times. And then outside of work, I feel like I still get to do that in a way, with my friends and my family and my relationships and things that I'm involved in. I don't always feel like our purpose has to be so defined, because it can get really confusing. And I feel like you can start to feel discouraged when you can't figure out exactly what it is like that you're supposed to be doing. Like, obviously God puts you where you're supposed to be, and whatever you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing. So I think impacting other people's lives in a positive way is kind of everyone's purpose. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that's what kind of comes to mind for me.
Yeah, I think that it can change in the season of life you're in, and what you're doing. Right. And obviously you're a very multifaceted individual, and so it probably means you have more than one purpose in life. And I think that's true for many people. Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone who might still be struggling to figure out what their purpose might be, or where they're going, or what they should be pursuing?
I would probably tell them, I'd probably ask them like, what's their goal? Like, do you have a goal at all? Like, what things do you enjoy? Are you like trying to figure out what your career should be? Are you trying to figure out what to go to school for? Like, I think just narrowing down on your interests and small things that make you happy and things that you like to do that bring you joy are also going to bring other people joy when you're doing those things, because people are happiest when they're passionate about something. And I think that if you kind of lean more towards that, it can lead you in the right direction.
I love that. It's so true. Passion and purpose go hand in hand. And I think that everything you've kind of shared today, like living in the present moment and going for it, and stop letting that fear of failure hold you back, are just all so true. Thank you so much for joining me today. And before we sign off, I want you to let our listeners know where they could find you. Maybe they want to follow along on your travels. Maybe they have questions for you about travel nursing or about international travel, and they could reach out to you. Where would that be?
Yeah, so on Facebook, if you put Jenny White Seattle, you can find me, and you can always message me through there. Also, my Instagram is sunjen17, so you can always send me a message through there, and I post a ton of photos of all the fun, adventurous things I like to do. So you can find me there.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening today.